Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Scene to Screen Film Podcast. I'm Kieran, and this is my spoiler-free review of Guillermo Del Toro's latest film, The Shape of Water. Before I get into this review, I just want to talk for a second about my expectations, because obviously this film was released a while ago in America, and it's been getting a lot of positive attention over there, with everyone kind of talking about how great it is, and then obviously it's been nominated for Oscars and all that kind of stuff, so I think it's fair to say that walking into this film, I was pretty excited. And for those of you that might not already know, The Shape of Water tells this really unique kind of fairy tale story about a woman called Eliza, played by Sally Hawkins, and Eliza is mute, so she can't talk. She works nights as a cleaning lady at a high security government lab, and for the most part, she lives this kind of lonely and solitary life. You know, she follows the same routine every day, till one night, a few government suits show up, including Shannon's character, and with them they've got this scaly river creature or river god, and they want to study and figure out what it is, how it works, and while cleaning the facility, Eliza grows a unique bond with the creature, and from there we get to see how the story unravels and how that relationship evolves. But as usual, I'm not going to go into anything too specific for this review. And as someone who walked into this film with a lot of expectations, I've got to say that most of them, not all of them, I do have a few issues that I'll talk about a little bit later, but I'm pretty impressed that most of my expectations were met. I really liked this film. And even as someone that hasn't been a fan of Guillermo Del Toro and some of his previous films, I loved Pan's Labyrinth when I recently rewatched it, but I can't say that I really liked Pacific Rim, and Crimson Peak was probably my least favourite of his films. So while I was excited for The Shape of Water, I did kind of have a bad taste in my mouth from some of Del Toro's past few films. But walking out of the cinema, the directing from Guillermo Del Toro was probably the thing that I was most excited to talk about, because this is an expertly directed piece of cinema. Guillermo Del Toro always brings a certain style to his movies, but The Shape of Water is on a completely new level, and watching the film, you can tell that Del Toro has spent hours upon hours going through each moment and slaving over every frame to make sure that every small detail is perfect, no matter how small or unimportant it might seem to us. And Del Toro very clearly had a message and an idea that he wanted to put across with The Shape of Water. In fact, I would probably say that he had a few messages that he kind of wanted to get out with this film. Messages about racism, about equality, homophobia. But at the end of the day, this film, it's just trying to get across the idea that if you're nice, then other people, and even some monstrous things, will usually be nice back. And Del Toro, I think, did a really great job of placing those ideas in this film without kind of hitting you over the head with them. They're there and they are important to the film, but they never distract from the fascinating fairy tale that's kind of unfolding. And that leads me on to the story, because let's face it, the premise of this film is more than a little bit out there. You've got a mute human woman and a scaly monstrous looking river god who build a connection and fall in love. That's not your average romantic comedy, yet Del Toro constructs the story in such a way that by the second act, you're invested in the characters, who they are, and what they've gone through, to the point where you fully believe and understand the situation that Sally Hawkins' character is in. Watching The Shape of Water, it's hard not to get caught up in the love story and the emotion, and that just goes to show how good of a job Guillermo Del Toro did with this film and with this story. The performances here are equally great. I completely understand why Sally Hawkins is nominated for Best Actress. Her performance in this film is mesmerising. It's incredible to see how much emotion she can conjure and present on screen without saying a single word. Another performance that really stood out for me was Richard Jenkins, who plays Eliza's neighbour and her kind of life partner in many ways. Both of these characters are outsiders for different reasons, so they've kind of found each other, and that's a really great relationship. And Richard Jenkins' performance in this film is outstanding. He gets to be the comedic relief at various points, but his performance also has a layer of depth and sadness that is incredible to watch. So again, I'm not surprised to see that he's been nominated for an Academy Award. Octavia Spencer is in here, and as usual, she gives a stellar performance, but there's nothing really in that character that we haven't seen before in previous Octavia Octavia Spencer roles. So I'll just quickly move on to the performance that I think was the standout and that I think is being criminally underappreciated, and that's Michael Shannon's portrayal of the government bad guy. Michael Shannon really gets under your skin in this film, and unlike a lot of cinematic villains, we really get to see what makes this guy tick. We get into his head, and that was really exciting and kind of unnerving. I also really liked the level of humanity that Michael Shannon brought to this character. All good bad guys don't know that they're bad guys. In their opinion, they're the good guys doing what they think is right, and Michael Shannon put across and conveyed that idea really well. And then finally we've got Doug Jones, who plays the creature at the centre of The Shape of Water, and he does an absolutely fantastic job in this film. It's not easy to make an audience fall in love with a monster that looks this horrific, but he's able to do it, and he does it really well. And in a lot of ways, Doug Jones brings a lot of humanity to his performance, even with some of the restrictions that come with playing this kind of character. And now, before I wrap up this review, I'm reluctantly going to talk about the thing that holds me back from giving The Shape of Water a perfect rating, and where I think the film kind of falters is actually in its kind of conventional storytelling. Don't get me wrong, I loved the story and the characters overall, but there were small elements of the narrative that were predictable. In certain scenes we can kind of predict what will happen because this other thing happened 5 minutes ago. And that comes with telling this kind of story where it's kind of influenced by films like Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that. So it really is just a small issue that I had with the film, and thankfully it doesn't impact my enjoyment of The Shape of Water overall. Alright, that's it for this review. All I've got to do is give The Shape of Water my final rating, and I'm going to give this film a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, this is an expertly crafted film, and Guillermo Del Toro has constructed a beautifully told fairy tale, even if it is sometimes predictable and conventional. I just want to say thanks for listening to this episode of the Scene to Screen Film Podcast. If you've got some spare time, why not head over to YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud or Stitcher and listen to a few more of our episodes. Both me and AJ will be back later this week for our next topic, where we'll be talking about our favourite movies of all time. So make sure you don't miss that one. Thanks for listening, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode.